Hi everyone, it's Dave Eccles of Remax Premier, and I'm joined with my good friend Nat Grillo and Michael Varelli. We are doing an episode of Realtors in the Trenches, and this is episode 8.
So I think today what we're going to talk about is the state of the market and how we realtors get put on the spot sometimes when someone says, "So how's the market?" And then you're expected to give this one-word answer like, "Oh, it's great," or "It's slow," or whatever. And the reality is that it's very property specific, neighborhood specific. For example, and we're using this term lately, which is asymmetrical, which means there's no rhyme or reason. Like you can have a house in a neighborhood go into multiple offers and get over the asking price, and then another house down the street just sits there. So uh, we're going to talk a little bit about today about how we answer that question and what we look into. So, Mike, you got something to say about that?
Well, what I'm seeing, it is neighborhood to neighborhood. I've been on two listing appointments in the last few days, and just looking at comparable sales and stuff, and prices haven't changed much in those neighborhoods, which when we hear in the media or other realtors talking, it's doom and gloom. So it's very area specific what I'm seeing. And that's a testament of being a professional in real estate is not answering those questions that consumers have to say, yeah, it's great or it's terrible or this and that. But that's what I have seen in the past week or so, just based on my experience.
Dave, how you been?
Yeah, it's interesting. Just this, very short little while, this past week or so, the market has definitely taken a different trajectory. I'm seeing these multiple offers happening as we spoke about last time. And but much like Michael said, that we're not seeing the prices go really out of whack. Even in multiple offers, they're really just landing where the value is. So more activity, more happening in the market. The rate hold yesterday, that's encouraging for sure, especially those that have lines of credits or they have variable mortgages. It's definitely encouraging that it didn't go up again. And it's leading to the thought that this interest rate may decline, sooner than later. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm liking what I'm seeing in the market. It's been a little bit suppressed for some time, and I like to see the activity back at it.
So on top of the idea of different neighborhoods uh, performing differently. So for example, I think Mike, your listing appointment was in High Park, Bloor West, and I've done a lot of business there too. And I found that always to be a very stable neighborhood where the property values don't really fluctuate as much as in a lot of the other neighborhoods. So it's neighborhood specific, but it's also type of property. So a couple nights ago, I was on an offer on a urban townhouse, a townhouse right downtown in the Queen West area, and there were 12 offers, and it sold substantially over asking price. So that happens to be a little niche that's undersupplied right now, and there's a big demand because a lot of young people can't afford to buy a house in Toronto, but they can just squeeze in to get a townhouse. So it's not just the neighborhood, it's also the type of property. Whereas a lot of condo apartments that are one bedrooms, they're still taking a very long time to sell. So it's neighborhood, it's type of property, it's wherever the demand and the supply are out of balance.
How
Yeah.
was that? Like, what was the pricing of it, Nat? Was
Yeah,
it
so
priced
that
well
was
below?
it was priced at 899 and it sold over 1 million. And you know, the agent was she's a very good agent in the area, and she said Nat, with this market, it's so weird to know how to price it. So she said, I knew if I priced it, aggressively, I would get a lot of action. And it was exactly the right thing to do. So it's not that she thought it was worth $8.99, but she wasn't sure of what it was worth. So she priced it aggressively to bring out as many people as possible. And that paid off for her. So um, sometimes when you see these low prices, sometimes it's the realtor just trying to generate enough activity to get a critical mass going.
Mhm.
And do you think that where it sold at was kind of where the market
Yeah,
value?
like it didn't sell way over what the market will bear. It sold pretty much what the market is. Uh, and the other factor was that there wasn't a lot else on the market. Not a lot had sold in that complex. So that's part to do with there's short supply of that kind of property. There isn't a lot of turnover. So it's hard to determine what is it worth now if a unit similar to that sold 2 years ago, what does that mean? And it sold slightly higher than the unit that sold 2 years ago. So
Mhm.
it's in line.
Yeah.
It's very good to know.
But again, if you try and list a one-bedroom condo in one of the big buildings downtown, you're going to find it's going to take 40 days or so to sell.
Yeah. Yeah. I've experienced that in the past month or so. I had a condo and I was struggling to sell it, and actually just struggling to get people in the door. Um, it Yeah, it's like that micro condo, that one bedroom small condo without the
Yeah.
plus one. It's a tough go. It's a slog for sure.
I find those are a slog because after COVID, a lot of people are working from home. So the thinking
Mm.
before in those kind of units is, oh, I'm young. It's basically a glorified hotel room. I'm out all the time anyway. I'm at work or at play. So I just need a place to sleep. But now people are working from home 2, 3 days a week. They can't do all their work from their master bedroom. They need another space. So those micro units, I think came under a lot of pressure from COVID.
Yeah, yeah.
Mike, you're nodding. You're a young person. Tell me what it's like.
I mean, my condo's a little bit bigger that I live in, but you make some good points. I mean, most people are buying those condos because of convenience and not thinking that they had to possibly work from home, but because the workplace has changed, they're having to do that, and they're thinking, you know what, maybe I need a bigger spot, but you know, does it make sense to sell on that condo I bought 2 years ago? Is it worth what I paid for? So there's a lot of factors that come into play, I guess. And, you know, if I bought a condo 2 years ago and I'm not making any profit on it, I'm probably going to stay put and make do with what I can. Maybe I could utilize some other space elsewhere if that that's I guess if I'm able to, and like a business center in my condo, something like that. It may not be as private and quiet as my own unit, but looking at different options.
Yeah, I think also a lot of those smaller units were bought by investors to rent out. And a lot of those investors, I've had a couple in the last year or so where we put it on the market for sale. We weren't getting very much activity, and yet they were clamoring to rent it. There are a lot of tenants out there looking for that kind of place, and the rents are quite high. So my clients just decided to continue renting. So I think there's a lot of landlords who are just continuing to rent if they can, even if they
Yeah.
have to lose a little bit every month. They're trying to wait it out. Dave, is that
Yeah,
what
and,
you're saying?
yeah, and I think from past experience over the last, so many years that landlords, positive cash flow was king and it was happening. And you know, I think maybe landlords got a little bit used to that, and now a negative cash flow of even $50, people are screwing about and whining about it. But If you take in consideration, I've got some clients that are in the same boat, and there's certainly lots to think about. But I think that many investors got used to the positive cash flow over the
Yeah.
last 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah. So then it brings us to an interesting question too on how the market is performing. I think we touched on this a little bit last week, where the outer markets performing as well as the
Mhm.
inner markets. So you know, and I is Mississauga, Pickering, Ajax, are they performing as well as downtown Toronto? You guys, any experience with that lately, guys?
I, I'd like to say that downtown is still, and it's always been, from the sheer perspective of supply and demand, it will continue to outperform the outer areas.
Mhm.
Um, from experience out in my area here, I'm still seeing it very slow. Is nearly zero inventory, but buyers are still taking their time, and they're still very, very cautious. Sellers are they're being told by their mortgage brokers and the realtors that, hey, the interest rates are going to come down in the spring. You might want to wait a little bit because when it comes down, the prices will climb. And so sellers aren't excited to jump on the market, and this continues on. And yeah,
Hmm.
but I do see the Toronto market, and I've always seen it that way, that it's always been a more active market.
Yeah.
I think
Mike?
what I see sometimes too is, guys, that a lot of people stay away from Toronto because of the double land transfer tax. They feel like they don't have enough down payment as it is, so they
Mhm.
look at Peel region, Durham region, York region, for homes because they can avoid having to pay basically double the land transfer. Now, obviously, with a first-time buyer, they do get a rebate, I believe up to $4,500 on the land transfer. But for people that aren't first-time buyers, um, and struggling to come up with additional monies for down payment to mitigate the higher interest rate environment we're in, they are looking at those other places, and there's probably decent deals out there for them. Um, so I do see, both ends of it. I'm a firm believer Toronto is the heart of, the real estate market here in Ontario. So prices are always going to tend to, be consistent, and growth consistent as well.
Okay. So to
Right.
wrap up what we were talking today, then is when you're asking your realtor, and hopefully one of us is your realtor, when you're asking us how the market is, make sure we answer you in a specific way. The neighborhood, the type of property, not just the general grade or slow, because you deserve better information than that. Next week, we might talk about the proposed 10% foreign buyers tax for Toronto, which just got announced today that that's something they're thinking about. And maybe we can talk about our feeling as realtors if these taxes have the desired effect that the government people think they do. All right. Well, thank you very much. And we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Yeah, take care.